Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to just be very forthright. I'm filming in front of a window that has rain on the other side of it, so the lighting has been very challenging. I've been messing with it for like 20 minutes, so I just give up and we're gonna work through it because it's not about the lighting, about the quality. That's what YouTube is for. Doesn't have to be professional. But it's been a very long time since I've done a favorites video, so I'm coming at you with some lifestyle favorites, with some makeup favorites, and with some fitness favorites, which I guess could fall under lifestyle, but like whatever. If you've never been here before, hi, how are you? Welcome to the family. If you have been here before, hi, how are you? Welcome back. I'm trying some no heat with the hair, and we're gonna see how it goes. So I'm going to jump right into the makeup favorites, and I have a couple of honorable mentions as well, just because they're a little bit newer and I haven't had a chance to really get in and play with them yet. I've done a couple looks with a few things, and I'm actually going to start with the honorable mentions. Some of these things I've only had for like a week, but I have been very surprised by these 4 things. So I did think I should mention them in this video because I'm sure they will show up later on. I'm also going to do another video where I just kind of go through all of the things I've picked up in the last like month or so. I can't lie, quarantine times have not done me so well for my wallet. Everything that I've ever wanted is coming in my mailbox shortly. So my first honorable mention is actually the Jeffree Star Thirsty palette. I didn't pick up any Jeffree Star palettes from their launch except for the Bloodlust, which is the more recent one. I did talk about my reasoning behind that in my palette collection video, which I will link either up here or down below if you wanted to check that out. But I did pick this up from someone off Poshmark who had already basically given them their money, so then I feel like it's okay. And I think it was my Project Pan video, the intro, I was using this. Lots of people had asked me what it was, and it was this Thirsty palette. I'm trying not to like show you my legs, which are in a jumper, but basically I had used the yellow, 2 of these corals, and then Filthy Rich and Luck, which are these 2 shades here, and the shimmers were like effortless. It was pretty crazy. I'm gonna try and do some swatches for you here. Like, they're just so beautiful, and the mattes were like effortless. Lately I've been having a harder time with shimmers actually like transferring from the brush to my eye, and these were super duper easy, which I really loved. But yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised with this palette. Like, I truthfully only picked it up because I had to complete the collection, because then I had all of them except for this and the mini controversy. So when I saw it, I was like, well, fine. Grabbed it and have been pleasantly surprised. So this is my honorable mention number 1. Honorable mention number 2 are the ColourPop blushes that I picked up. One is in the shade Catch My Vibe. This is the one from the Mauves, Making Mauves collection, I believe. They're very pretty. They're very beautiful. The packaging is also beautiful. It has this really nice flower imprinted on it, and the outside matches. This one is like more of a mauve. Mauvey pink. Obviously it's a mauve because it's from the Mauve collection. That is that one. Very matte. And then this one is actually from the Kathleen Lights X ColourPop, and this is I Need Space. And this one is more like a brown mauve, and this one has a little bit more of a shimmer to it. So one's like a pink mauve and one is like a browny peachy mauve. I hope it's coming up properly on camera, but I've been pleasantly surprised by both of these. They have been 2 blushes I've been reaching for a lot in the last week. I'm actually having really good luck with blushes lately, surprisingly enough. I typically find that blushes with me, they just don't stay on my face. Like, I put them on and they don't either show up or they don't stay. So those 2 are number 2 and 3 of my honorable mentions. And last but not least in the honorable mentions is Making Mauves, the palette. So I didn't buy the whole collection. I did just pick up the palette and that one blush. And looking at it, I was kind of like, man, that looks a little bit boring. Kind of looks like Lilac, the Lilac palette, and It's My Pleasure, I think is the purple one, kind of mixed together. I actually have the other one, so let me just give you a comparison. I was right, It's My Pleasure. This is It's My Pleasure, which is very purple. This is I Lilac You a Lot. which is obviously lighter purple. And then Making Mauves, which is the cardboard packaging and doesn't actually have the mirror in it. So looking at them, they're very different, but when I see this on its own, I feel like it's like close to these, but clearly it's really not. So it makes me feel a little bit crazy. It actually, the Making Mauves also reminds me a little bit of, what is that palette I'm thinking of? Reminds me a little bit of Give It To Me Straight as well, which is that palette I have almost barely touched, but even still, this is a little bit more cool tone and this is definitely more warm tone. So I have done a couple of looks with this. I do really like it so far. Some of these shades are freaking just stunning. And really it's the shimmers that I'm here for more than the mattes. The mattes are pretty standard. I'm actually glad I just did that comparison because I was kind of going back and forth in my mind if it was a good idea to have bought that Making Mauves, but it is really cool tone mauves and mauves. And I didn't really have anything like that in my collection, truthfully, now that I've done that comparison. Okay, moving on and into my actual makeup favorites. A couple of these are a little bit boring. A couple of them are not. That's okay. I've already talked about this a couple times. I think I've actually had it in my favorites more than once. This is the Catrice HD Liquid Foundation. I love this in the winter. My skin gets a little bit more dry. I find this is mattifying but not drying, so it doesn't actually like suck all of the moisture I have left out of my skin, and it doesn't catch on any kind of flakiness in my skin. It does go over primer very well, and regardless of the primer I use, this lasts all day and works really well, and it's not very expensive. I think it's only like $15 in the drugstore in Canada, which in the States is probably like 10. It's pretty good. Catrice as a brand in general is pretty good. That's also in my project pan, so you'll probably be seeing more of it. I did talk recently about having a hard time with my eyeshadow creasing throughout the day. I feel like I go through these ebbs and flows of my eyes being super oily or super dry, and both of those things cause problems for me. And I had tried all kinds of different primers and nothing had worked, so I did pick up the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base with my Sephora points just to try it out and see if it would work because I didn't really want to put the money out. And wow, this looks like nothing going on. Like, it's totally clear. It's nothing to write home about. Like, that's it. Not much to it. You blend it in, you get your base, and then you're good. I mean, like, if you need coverage over your like if you need coverage on your eyelids and you have a lot of veins or anything like that, this probably isn't the product for you. But if you're having a hard time with creasing, this has been amazing. And it gives all of those shimmers I've been having a hard time with just a little bit of something, like a little bit more oomph to them, almost like foiling your eyeshadows. It's very hard to explain. So when you spray your eyeshadow and you get it wet and you put it on, it normally comes on a lot stronger, a lot more like foiled. This does that for you without having to include the water or the setting spray into the mix. So in a fit of boredom, I did pick up the Pat McGrath Labs pressed powder. So this is supposed to be like an eye setting powder, but I have not been using it on my eyes, like underneath my eyes. I have it in the shade medium. It's the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Powder. I've been using this on my entire face, and as you can see, it really does the job. It is a little bit more expensive. It's not a ton of product. It's 4 grams. Let me see how much is in this. Yeah, like this loose powder is 15 grams. So I know it's a little bit of a different situation and one's like a loose and one's not, but still, let me compare it to the Charlotte Tilbury actually. All right, just so we could get like a better comparison, the Charlotte Tilbury pressed powder is 8 grams. Again, Pat McGrath is half of that. The Too Faced Primed and Poreless is 10 grams, and I pulled out an Essence as well, and this one is 9 grams. So even just in size comparison, the Pat McGrath is quite a bit smaller, but I actually think I like it more than the Charlotte Tilbury and any other powder I've ever tried. And I've been a big believer in the Rimmel Stay Matte for a very long time. I never thought I would find a powder that operated better than that one, but anti-Pat. I do want to be really clear. I don't think you need to run out and buy any of these things, okay? It's just shit I like. It's not sponsored or anything. I don't make any money off of this, obviously. Okay, that being said, while we're talking about powders, I also want to touch on this Ciate London Everyday Vacay powder. This came in BoxyCharm and I really liked it. I love the way it smells. I love the way it finishes under my eyes. I haven't noticed any flashback. I haven't noticed any garbage. It is very, very, very finely milled. Packaging is super cute, has a little Ciate London bow on the top. Loose powder is loose powder is loose powder, but I do love when things come in BoxyCharm and are awesome. If I get one item in BoxyCharm, you like my sad little quarantine nail? If I get one item in BoxyCharm that I think is amazing, it makes the entire box worth it for me. So that made that box worth it for me for sure. Another blush, this one is actually my favorites. I was inspired to pick this up by Kathleen Lights. This is Essence the blush in the shade Beloved. I do have a little demo of me wearing it, and I am wearing it today. It just gives that like perfect flush without going overboard. And I'm gonna add a little bit more, a little something something here. It just looks very natural and very beautiful, and it's very difficult to go overboard with this. What do we think? Do we like it? This one is just kind of like a peachy pink as well, or actually it's more like a true pink when you swatch it, but when it runs into my bronzer, it seems to give me a little bit different of a hue. These are super cheap. I think they're only like $3 or $4 or a super good deal. There is this one and one other shade from what I could find. So I think there's only 2 shades, which isn't ideal, but overall I really like that blush, and I do find that it has excellent staying powder as well. Okay, so the last 3 things to talk about are all eyeshadow. I know, shocker. Who knew? I'm sure you have heard about these a million times over at this point. These are the e.l.f. bite-sized palettes. I have 4 of them. I couldn't find all of them in Canada. I know there's more than this. I'll try and find the other ones and put them up here in a picture. I have Eau de Rose, Truffles, Cream and Sugar, and Berry Bad. I'm trying to like translate the French when the English is up at the top. Personally, I never thought I would ever say this, but I do prefer Cream and Sugar and Truffles to the 2 pink ones. These ones are just so pretty on the eye. I'm using Truffles today. This seems to be the one I reach for the most to do a very quick neutral eye. It's like these 2 together are kind of like sultry and soft glam in a very micro, like if Anastasia was gonna do like a Natasha Denona thing and make her bigger palettes smaller, this is what they would have ended up with those 2 palettes. So I also have one, I do love this palette in general. This is the Jeffree Star Blue Blood. Out of all of them, if I had to rank them, this is actually probably my favorite one. Which I never thought I would say with a blue themed palette because I don't wear blue a ton. But when I was doing my, I don't really have a name for it yet, but I'm sorry, I know I'm touching my hair a lot. It's falling in my face and poking me in the eye. I'm feeling very attacked. Anyway, when I was doing my testing for this palette, so now when I get eyeshadow palettes, I'm trying to use every single shade in them before I develop an opinion. So this one I was reaching for even after I had finished that, and that's not something that I have found myself doing. I find I've been bouncing back and forth quite a bit, whereas this one I was like totally happy to use it. It is my most used palette in 2020 by a long shot. The favorite shade in it is Cullinan, which is over here, and I did talk about this in my Project Pan as well, in my intro. This is the shade I want to try and hit pan on. Not just hit pan on, but like finish for the year. And it just is so freaking beautiful. I don't have anything else like it. It is a white shimmer with a blue shift, but the blue shift is so subtle, it almost just makes it seem more white or like ice, like icy white. I freaking love this shade so much. It's what I have in my inner corner and on my brow bone, and it's basically what I wear on my inner corner every single day, regardless of what I am wearing on my face. So if you have Blue Blood and you haven't really played with it too much, really get in there and try and experiment, because this is not my go-to type of eyeshadows, and this is definitely become my go-to eyeshadows. So I know I'm probably gonna catch some shit for this, but I have to call it how it is. I am a big believer in like the makeup, not the person, and support the item if it's good and not necessarily the person. So I did pick up the Jaclyn Hill Morphe number 2, or Morphe Jaclyn Hill number 2. And I think this is probably my second most used palette for the year so far. I did buy it to kind of talk shit about it, truthfully, and then I ended up really liking it and reaching for it a ton. I've been going back and forth between Blue Blood and this one, which is funny because this is like so warm, and Blue Blood is so cool. Like, so cool. It is not vegan from what I understand, so if you are vegan, this probably isn't gonna work for you. But the looks I've come up with are amazing. The shadows have been really great. They do stain a little bit, so please be aware if that's something that you struggle with or something that affects you in a negative way. I don't recommend it in that case, but if you are okay with supporting the item and not the person, I do strongly recommend that. Or if you are thinking about going with that palette as kind of like your brights palette coming into summer, I don't think that you'll be disappointed. I wasn't. Okay, so we are moving on into some lifestyle favorites. So I do want to get started with some of my fitness favorites. None of this is sponsored. None of this is anything. It's just because I like it. I know I've already said that once. I'm saying it again because I know that there's been a lot of influencers who have been on these items. Number 1 is a sports bra. I really hate running because I have a very large chest, and when I run, it hurts. They're all over the place. They're hitting me in the face. They're hitting my friend in the face on the treadmill beside me. It's very uncomfortable and very painful for my skin. For context, I am like a 40 triple D, probably actually bordering into an E now. Even when I get really skinny, like I have been 50 pounds lighter than I am right now, I'm still a freaking E cup. It's just like my boobs seem to get bigger and my waist gets smaller. I don't know. It's very weird. Humble brag? I don't know. Wasn't meant to be. That being said, I complain about this constantly to my husband, and he's my husband, so I feel like he's rather partial to the ladies. I call him my boob research and development department, and he actually found me this sports bra from SheFit. SheFit is specifically made for larger chested women. It has, I'll put some pictures up here. I'll put a link down below. It's not an affiliate link. It's really me just sharing information. It's amazing. It's so comfortable. It completely keeps you intact. It has adjustable straps on the top and not like a normal bra adjustable, like fully Velcro adjustable straps. The straps are thick. Through the back, there is an adjustable strap as well. Also very thick. It's about this thick coming through the back and about this thick over the shoulder. You can cross it or you can have it go straight down. It's completely adjustable. And there is a zipper in the front, so if you feel like you're too held together, you can actually undo it. Honestly, I've never seen something so flexible as this bra and something so containing. Like I can run full tilt and they don't move at all. They being the boobies. It does feel a little bit strange talking about this on the World Wide Web, but so be it. I can't tell you how many times I've been trying to run on the treadmill or like really get up on a spin bike and you get bouncing at all and they're literally falling out. So I was really happy to have found this. They're a little bit on the more expensive side. I believe they're about $70 each, but you can't put a price on back support or good bras. Honestly, you can't. So if you're looking to invest and you are heavier chested, even if you're a little bit smaller, like I think they start somewhere from like a large B and up, heavily, very much recommend it. There's a couple different styles as well, different colors. They're wonderful. While we are on the topic of fitness, I know a lot of you have probably heard about Peloton, which is a spin bike where they basically do live classes and it has a screen built in and you basically have spin classes in your living room or wherever you keep this bike. It is about $2,500 to $3,500 Canadian, the last I checked. If that's incorrect, I will correct myself. I really loved that idea. I have really bad knees, so I wanted to try getting more into biking, hoping it would help me strengthen my legs and strengthen my back a little bit and give me something different to do. I do have a full gym in my basement, multiple cardio machines, multiple weights, etc. I don't need a gym membership. We have more than enough stuff downstairs, but I really wanted to look into this Peloton thing and really couldn't get over the price. So I started looking at alternative options, and that's where we come to my new favorite, which is the Echelon X3. So basically an Echelon is the exact same thing as a Peloton, but the Peloton has a built-in screen and the Echelon does not. Still live classes, still Fit Pass, still all of those things. I will put a picture of mine up here. It has been a big player in me being able to get back on top of my health. If it's something that you're interested in and you do want to pick one up, they do sales all the time on their main website. Shipping was super fast. My experience with the company in general has been very, very good. The classes are very difficult. You have your live classes, which you basically can compete live with other people. You have your on-demand classes, which you can compete with the live class when it was recorded. You can also compete with people who are doing it with you at the time. It's just basically a running leaderboard, and it gives you lots of ways to track your progress. Just on fitness in general, if you struggle with completing a class, or if you struggle with staying on for that extra 5 minutes, or if you just feel like you can't do it, just start. It doesn't matter if you go and do it for 10 minutes. It doesn't matter if you go and do it for 3 minutes, especially on something you find more challenging. Like with me, getting on that bike was very, very challenging, and I felt like an idiot because I couldn't do more than 3 minutes. My husband bought it for me for Christmas, and not the Peloton lady that was like, oh my God, watch me, it's changing my life. He knew I wanted to get in better shape, and he used to really enjoy spin back in the day. So it was just something that we could both use, and we'd been looking at a spin bike most of last year. So we did end up picking that up, and the point of this story is I don't think I could complete more than 10 minutes at a time. More than 5 minutes at a time, even, if I'm being totally honest, for probably the first month. But I kept going back to it. I kept getting on it, even if it was for the 3 minutes or the 5 minutes or the 10 minutes. And eventually I was able to do it for 15 minutes, and it's only been a couple months. And then I think about 3 days ago, I ended up being able to do an hour. I did an hour in a intermediate class, and I came in, I think, 41st of 560 people. 2 months ago, I couldn't do 3 minutes. So regardless if you have a fitness bike, or you're in a class, or you're on a treadmill, if you are inspired to do anything with your health, especially during the quarantine where you're stuck inside and you're not really moving around a lot, just do the 3 minutes. If the 3 minutes is all you got, just do the 3 minutes. And eventually your 3 minutes will become a lot longer, and you'll be developing the habit. Even, truthfully, even if it's just putting on the gym clothes and then not going to work out, put on the gym clothes, work out a little bit, do 10 sit-ups and be done. I'm gonna get off my high horse, but you get what I'm saying. Highly recommend the Echelon. It is about $1,000 cheaper. It's like half the price of Peloton and basically does the same damn thing. I have also been really enjoying yoga in my fitness journey as well. It's not like yoga is new to me. I've never been a big believer in it. Since my job has again ramped up and all this other stuff has been going on, and the surgery of myself and the surgery for my mother-in-law, I have found yoga to be incredibly helpful. I try and do only 30 minutes a day that I actually use the Echelon app to do the class that they do. They're not super challenging, but it's enough that I have noticed a difference in the composition of my body. I've lost weight and gained weight about 5 or 6 times, and I don't mean a little bit, I mean a lot. It's something that I have struggled with the back and forth with for a very long time. But I really find yoga is helping me keep zen and keep calm, and it's making my body stronger. And there's been classes even in yoga where I have had to stop them because I found them too challenging. And all of a sudden I was doing one a couple days ago, and I found my movements to be much more fluid, and I found my arms were stronger, my back was stronger, and I could just move through things a lot easier without feeling so challenged and feeling so exhausted all the time. So I really loved that as well. So yoga, I do recommend it. There's hot yoga, regular yoga, easier, harder. Even if you just do a couple positions, I found it has really helped with my mental state through all of this challenging stuff that's been going on. I don't mean for this to get all downery. I don't know. I hope you're feeling inspired, not dragged down. And the last two things I want to touch on are some podcasts. Actually, there's three I want to touch on. If you are an Office fan and you don't know, Angela Kinsey and Jenna Fischer have started a podcast called The Office Ladies, where they talk about behind the scenes nonsense that's happened on The Office, and they're actually going through and rewatching the entire series. If you're not an Office fan, I highly recommend you watch that in general. Hopefully it's your humor. If it's not, I'm so sorry. I don't know what it must be like to live that way. But they're very funny, and it's kind of fun to listen to them banter back and forth and to learn some insider info about the show. The second one I want to talk about, and I know this can be a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, I find sexuality very interesting, and there was a podcast I kind of stumbled across. I don't even know how I found it, and it's called Dying for Sex. And basically the idea is, it follows the story of two best friends. One is terminally ill with cancer, which again, I know is a very sensitive subject, and this has been difficult for me to listen to from time to time as well, because my mother has had 2 rounds of cancer, and cancer is pretty rampant in my family. But it's just interesting hearing the experience of sexuality through someone who is going through a terminal illness, and how they're using sex to cope with basically dying. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, it is a little bit more of a difficult listen, but I do find it really interesting if you're interested in that kind of topic. Again, it's called Dying for Sex. I do recommend it if you're interested in it. It's got a pretty high rating, but some people take the cancer subject matter very seriously. So if you are struggling with that, or even if you're trying to understand what someone else is going through, I do recommend you listen to that. They're a very interesting couple of friends, and the dynamic of the relationship is also very interesting. So I do recommend that one. Again, Dying for Sex. And then the last one, which I did touch on in a video not too long ago, is The Happiness Lab. That podcast is by Laurie Santos, and she is basically a Yale professor who studies the psychology of happiness. So if you are interested in like psychology of the mind and psychology of contentment, and why we do and don't do things, and why we do and don't feel certain things, and if you need coping mechanisms to get through some of this stuff, they actually did a special segment. I think there's 5 or 6 episodes about what to do while you're in quarantine, and how to handle it, and how to keep your mental state in a good spot. So I do highly recommend that one as well, and that one is The Happiness Lab. Okay guys, that was a very long favorites video. I will insert as much information about these products that I've talked about into the description box below. Please let me know what you've been loving lately, and I'll see you later.